Do you live for Sunday dinner and that slow-cooked all-day flavor of a pot roast that falls apart with a dull spoon? Thanks to Omaha Steaks, I'm never shy about the proteins when it comes to Sunday dinners at our house. Every steak is aged to perfection to maximize tenderness and hand-cut by master butchers in America's heartland. Get 50% off the world's best everyday protein. Go to omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their semi-annual sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code YUM at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code YUM at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Go to https://omahasteaks.com to get 50% off site-wide during their semi-annual sale. And use promo code YUM at checkout for an extra $35 off. Minimum purchase may apply.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Spotcast Season 9, Episode 7. My name is Timitra. I am in Toronto, Ontario. I'm joined by Jonathan Kuline in Lawrenceville, Bristol, New Brunswick.
Hello there, kids.
And we have no Jaime this week. He pulled the plug at the last minute.
Boo.
I know, eh?
We miss our guy.
Anyway, he's probably going to see the orange guy. Anyway, I probably should have said that. But anyway, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, in a bit. But yeah, so a bit of fact check from last week. I talked about 8K video being on the Vision Pro. I haven't actually seen an 8K video yet, to be honest with you. I've seen the spatial stuff, which is kind of cool. I didn't mention that when you open a 360 video, you kind of, if you're sitting down, you can't see what's behind you, but you can actually pinch and turn the world around so you can actually see what's behind you as well without having to get up and turn your head, which is kind of annoying in 360. But anyway, but what I want to talk about is the 8K video, which the resolution is actually 7680 by 4320. That's considered 8K, and then 4K is 3840 by 2160. So what I've seen in when I clicked on the gear, like some of the trailers I talked about last week, I clicked on them and it was 2160 was the number that came up, which meant that, because normally it'd be like 1080p is HD, right? And then I think 720 is oh god, here we go, follow check. 720 is standard def, and then so 4K is 2160 high, right? And then oh no, is that wide? It's high, yeah. But yeah, anyway, and then I also had a story that we just talked about before we started recording here, and that is that I saw this video online, and I just stumbled across it. I was watching YouTube or something. I can't remember if I was watching on my Vision Pro or on a conventional method, but I started watching this one, and I very rarely will go through like one of these sort of like educational thingies. Some of them are pretty good, but this one is the title of it pretty much is 4K is a lie. And he goes through and explains about how most films are mastered in 2K, right? And he talks about how it was on VHS and all that kind of stuff, and all the different ways that through history or time digital films went from analog to digital. They were mastered in 2K, and then they call them 4K, but they're not really, right? He said the only, and if you go through the whole video, the only movie that was actually made digitally in 4K was one of the Spider-Man movies, the one with the octopus, the Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Is that a Tobey Maguire one, I think?
The second one is the one with Dr.
Yeah, the one with the car
time.
Comes through the coffee shop window and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what he says is that the movie's 4K, but the special effects are still 2K.
Oh.
Even Doc Ock's arms, because at that point in time, they didn't have the technology to really render that. It would have taken like years to render, right? If it had to be 4K. So And then, of course, he talked to the one exception, of course, is Nolan's films, Christopher Nolan's films, because he does them in IMAX, and those are actually on film, right? So,
Right.
but even like IMAX theaters, some of them present in digital, right? So it's kind of like it's this real nebulous thing. So it turns out that 99% of films are mastered in 2K, like scanned into 2K or whatever, right? Like it's coming from film or even digital. So. Yeah, it's kind of weird, and he basically said like, yeah, they just put 4K on the box to make you pay for it.
So they don't upres them?
Well, I think they kind of do upraise them, but like, what do they do? How are they upraising them? They're not. There's no. They're making up stuff. It's like, back in the early days of Photoshop, we used to be able to like resize images, right?
Mm.
And there was always sort of like artifacts, like lines weren't quite as sharp and that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
where you would expect to get jaggies, you kind of get these sort of like soft diamond-looking things that make it look better, but it really isn't. It's not. I mean, ask your son. I'm sure he can probably tell you whether an image has been scaled up or not, right? I know I can. I can tell it in Photoshop, and I can tell it in movies and stuff like that. And it's pretty disappointing when I'm watching a movie and I expect it to be like for instance, the I have the 3D copy of your favorite movie, Gravity, right? And I like the movie.
My favorite movie has definitely got Tom Cruise in it. Don't go that far.
Okay, but Gravity is it's in 3D, and I love it in 3D. But the images are soft because they're not tried to res up or whatever. They're not like Dune in 3D is like amazing because it's like really good. But again, I don't know if I'm looking at a 2K movie that's been scaled up, right?
Yeah.
Like what does 3D stand? What does like blowing sand in 4K look like compared to blowing sand in 2K? Anyway, I digress. But yeah, I just watch this video and you'll be amazed at the lie, the conceit, all those movies boxes you're buying. Are they really 4K?
I want my money back.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But yeah, it's interesting, like you say, like I mean, I just watched Jurassic Park, right? Well, it's not been reshot or anything like that. And Xavier and I talked about this in the past, where a lot of times 3D movies are shot in 2D, and then they go into the studio and they make them into 3D by making bringing characters forward and doing the shift thing, right? Yeah. To make it look 3D, because the way your right eye and left eye perceives things, right? So they can do that. And then I also have a copy of Wizard of Oz, the Judy Garland movie in 3D as well. It looks really bad from a like a clarity point of view because it's an old film, right? They didn't go rescan the film and make it into 3D. They just took an old print and went in and did what they could, right? So it's still grainy and whatever. But I mean, the effect of the 3D works, right? But you're looking at an old film. Yeah, so
cool.
Buyer beware.
Yeah. Said I will check that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a good 20-minute video, and I've watched a couple other videos by him. He's a pretty interesting presenter, but yeah, he makes a really good case for the fact that that little 4K label on your Blu-ray box may be a conceit, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of conceits, let's move over to the headlines and talk about Netflix.
Well, this is your mileage may vary on this one. So after many back and forth, and I've deliberately not put a lot of updates into our episodes the last few weeks about the deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers and Paramount, the little love triangle they've had going on, because it's just been churning for like 6 weeks now. And finally tonight we've got a little bit of breaking news that Netflix has decided that they are no longer interested in acquiring Warner Brothers, given the massive amount that Paramount is now bidding to acquire the film studio.
So who originally had the deal?
It was Netflix, and Warner Brothers had agreed to a deal where Netflix would acquire
Paramount
Warner
came
Brothers.
And brought a big bag of cash.
Yeah, so they both had bid on it. And Warner Brothers had accepted Netflix's bid, saying that they thought that was a better synergy for them. They think it was better for their stockholders, and they felt like it was better as far as protecting the brand. And then Paramount came in with like 2 more dump trucks full of money, and they were like, well, let's go back and forth. So they've just kept going back and forth with different bids, different compromises. There was discussion, obviously. Warner Brothers had some major concerns about the release window in theaters because they want to protect the movie industry in theaters. And Netflix, obviously, their prime they put movies in theaters, but for a matter of a couple of weeks tops before they go to their service. They said they would protect that by having a 45-day window in the theaters before it came to their services. And it seemed like there was a good marriage there, but Paramount just kept knocking and knocking and knocking and bringing more and more dump trucks full of money. And so Netflix finally announced today that they have decided that they do not have any interest in matching the latest offer from Paramount. They think that this was a nice to have, not need to have for them, and that they just don't see a path forward that would work for them, and so they have backed out. So the current price tag of the latest offer from Paramount is $111 billion.
Okay.
There are, I believe, only a handful of people, maybe two
Can't
handfuls.
you feed a few countries with that money?
Oh, I mean, you could buy a few entire countries for that money. That is higher than the GDP of many, many countries combined. So they basically said, you know what, we're not interested in spending $111 billion. Paramount has basically the superior deal. So Netflix has said we're no longer interested. This is a challenging one because there's only a handful of people that could have pulled this deal off. And the Larry Ellison, whose son David runs Paramount, Skydance, and apparently was footing the bill for this, as you'd expect. He is one of the wealthiest people on the planet. He's either one or two. I can't remember where he and Elon level out at this point. But again, this was simply basically a bulldog. They just kept throwing money at it until they got what they wanted. And again, this is something that only people who are beyond ultra wealthy. I mean, this isn't I'm a billionaire. This is I am a mega billionaire. I believe. I'm gonna do a quick check, maybe see what Larry Ellison's current worth is, but it's in an insane amount of money. Anyway, the point is, we ended up.
Ironically, he can't take with him, so I don't know what the point is.
Yeah, his estimated current net worth is $245 billion. So, I mean, we're still talking about half of his fortune to make this purchase, that's, and yet he'll still have hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, at a certain point, the money we're talking about is ludicrous. Point is, this is very complicated because it's not just a financial deal, it is a political deal as well. There was many concerns that even if Netflix had agreed on a price and Warner Brothers had agreed on a price, they were going to face intense hurdles trying to get this deal through the United States government because the deal for the Ellisons is that they are very avid backers of the current administration, that they are very much supportive of the current United States president. And we've seen that since they have acquired Paramount and CBS, they have gutted institutions like 60 Minutes. They have they have put an absolute clown show in place as the head of CBS News, and they have really taken a very political bent to a well-known brand. Acquiring the Warner Brothers is not the problem. It's acquiring all the things that come with that, including CNN, HBO, and many other assets that are either perceived as left of center or are left of center as far as their content. And obviously, we've seen things like 60 Minutes and CBS News go down, and now the idea of
Colbert as well.
Well, and Colbert, obviously, yes, and now we're seeing the walls come down potentially on CNN. we could see massive changes there. We could see CNN basically having to fall in line with the same kind of, rhetoric-based content that we've now seen from CBS the last little while. Rather extraordinarily sad decisions made on editorial policy. So yeah, this is a real dangerous place we're in right now. And I would expect now that this deal has been rubber stamped and Netflix has moved out of the way, that we will see this go to the United States government ASAP, because they're going to want to get this deal done well before November to try and make sure that they have control over the assets therein sooner than that. So for CNN, for John Oliver, for some of the forces that are still reporting the truth, this is a very sad turn of events. And, what this means for us as consumers is still up in the air. I mean, you're talking about a massive merger between assets, between, some of the assets of Paramount. Is Paramount Plus going to go away and HBO Max going to become the only service? Are they going to fold HBO? Are they going to fold HBO Max and fold it into Paramount? What's this going to mean for the budget of programs on those networks?
It's a clown show, basically. Yeah,
it is a real mess, and there is no way this will not impact how you watch TV, how you consume information. This is not, I'm going to say, for the record, Spockcast says this is not a good thing. So, I mean, the best possible outcome, I think, as people who are objective could look at this and say, it would have been better if it had gone to Netflix. It wasn't a perfect fit, but it was probably a safer fit. Now we're in a whole world of not just media amalgamation and network amalgamation, all that stuff, but potentially massive destruction of infrastructure, jobs, all kinds of things that can come out of this that are really, really sad. So so it's not a good day. It's not a good day.
Yep. Hold on to your hats, folks.
Yeah, stay tuned. And I think we're going to see this continue to play out over the next few weeks. There's going to be a lot of discussion about what this means, and I'm sure that we'll still continue talking about this. I did want to shout out the folks. This is being reported everywhere now, but I wanted to shout out the good folks at Gizmodo and IO9 who used a picture of Locutus of Borg saying the Paramount assimilation of Warner Brothers is coming. That is bravo. Well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of other disasters.
Yeah, this one's not good either. We had our Spockies last week, and we were talking about most anticipated movies, and, some of the luster has come off the Marvel content. It's not perceived quite as it used to be. But I think we can agree that Avengers Doomsday probably has a nice simmering buzz to it, just because we know this is going to bring together a lot of different elements from the old and the new, and a lot of people are interested in it. And given that interest, you'd think that you'd want to see it in its best possible format, which is probably IMAX. And you can't, at least not the first weekend. So because of the way that things are scheduled in the theaters, there's going to be a little showdown this December when these movies come out. We're going to get a head-to-head, and it's going to be Dune Part 3 versus Avengers Doomsday. And the good folks at Dune are holding the hammer because they have the spot in the IMAX theaters for that weekend. So if you want to see Dune in 3D, Dune 3 in 3D, you're in luck. If you want to see Avengers Doomsday in IMAX or IMAX 3D, you are SOL for the first weekend. And even after that, it kind of depends on how they perform, whether they decide to shift Dune out. There's no guarantee that you're going to immediately get the next one in there. So this is also, when you think about the highs and the heights of the Marvel experience over the past number of years, could you have imagined a movie with the scope and scale, with the cast, with the anticipation of something like Avengers Doomsday falling to second place in any circumstance?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, the other thing too, but you mentioned Dune in 3D. Dune was not in 3D on IMAX.
No,
It
that's
was in,
true. That's true.
So it was in 3D and regular, and it was an IMAX, and
Yep. Yeah, that's
but
true.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of, and I guess the part that kind of gets me is that people don't know or don't realize that Dune 3 isn't the same characters that we see in Dune 1 and 2.
Well,
They're older now.
It
or
will
wiser,
be in this version, I promise you, because they're going to do whatever they need to have, Zendaya and Chalamet, and they're not giving up on having
rewrite the book. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, I think what they'll do is they'll age them up a bit, but I don't think you're right. I think in the book it's a pretty significant amount of time that passes between the first book, which is the first two movies, and the second book. I don't think they're going to push it that far just because they want their stars and they want to make this movie now and they want it to come out while they have two of the hottest names in Hollywood headlining it, and Denis Villeneuve wants to make a third movie and doesn't want to make a fourth movie. So I think all of those confluences mean they have to make compromises, right?
But by the same token, though, I kind of wonder if the Avengers is more of a sci-fi market anyway. Like it was a pretty popular franchise, like you said, like Endgame and that were
and Infinity War, both of those were massive. Yeah.
I mean, I saw that in Hawaii. Like that's how far away we went to see it. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably more interested in seeing Avengers than Dune, but and I can't imagine that they'll bring it out and people will watch it in Ultramax or whatever, and the bloom is off the rose in terms of IMAX, right? So
it will be interesting to see, because this is a real challenge for not just for the franchises, but for obviously the companies behind these. The question is, will not being able to be presented in the best format possible affect the bottom line as far as box office?
Well, could they shift the date? Is that not a possibility? Or
they could.
December 24th premiere or something.
So the reason why this actually occurred is that Avengers Doomsday was originally slated to be a May movie, which is very common for Marvel tentpole movies. And because of circumstances, they pushed the movie back. They pushed it to December. And coincidentally, it's going head to head with Dune coming out on December 18th, both the exact same day and date. So, usually when these kind of circumstances line up, a lot of studios will wait for one or the other to blink based on what they see as far as tracking and, the data. So you're absolutely right. It is possible that one of them blinks. But when you think about the kind of money potential they see around the Christmas season, around, people being off work and going and seeing their product and stuff like that, who wants to give up that spot? This might be a real staring match. I wonder if there's just too much wrapped up in all of this for either of them to budge. I don't know. So, I mean, honestly, if it's, for the sake of argument, Friday, the 18th of December, and you're going to the theater, and both of these movies are long. We're talking 3 hours.
Yeah, but you've already also bought your ticket like 4 weeks ago.
Truly. But for the sake of argument, if you're walking up there and you're like, I can literally only see one of these movies because of the duration of the movie, and also I can only see one of these movies in the best possible format, what are you choosing on the 18th of December?
It depends if DoorDash delivers or not. Right? Actually, as a matter of fact, I know they do, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could go see it. You could go see a doubleheader. You could go see, one during the afternoon and one in the evening. But if you're doing that, you are not seeing Doomsday at its very possible best either. That's a compromise you have to make.
It's arguable too. Like, not everybody. I mean, IMAX is obviously, we know IMAX is probably the preferred viewing method, but I mean, yeah, I mean, like in Toronto, there's a handful of IMAX theaters, but there's also Ultramaxes and stuff like that. Like the Queensway doesn't have an IMAX.
Yeah, and they have
Queensway has that wide AVX. I don't know.
AVX, I think.
Yeah. It's wide and it's almost like 70 millimeter format, right? Sort of thing, but not really 70 millimeter.
Yeah. I mean, it's it'll be interesting. We haven't seen this kind of showdown since Barbenheimer, right? We saw Barbie and Oppenheimer open, and they were like, again, nobody was blinking because in that circumstance they were really viewed as two very separate audiences, the overlap between Barbie and Oppenheimer, both of which were terrific movies, is not a straight,
But that said, I waited weeks before I saw Barbie. I saw Oppenheimer.
I did too, but again, that's just speaking about you and I and our demographic. But there was a lot of people who were like, "Wow, these both look really great. I know want to see them both."
A doubleheader for sure. Yeah.
So the question becomes again: do you have that same kind of like Dune fans and Avengers fans don't overlap? Well, they kind of really do. Yes, they both have populist appeal because Marvel certainly has transcended the nerd market, and Dune obviously starring two of the youngest, hottest stars in Hollywood. Yeah, I mean that's obviously got a certain level of cachet as well, and Denis Villeneuve is a well-regarded director. There's a lot of reasons why people would go see both, and a lot of people who would see one would want to see the other. So yeah, it's like I say, this is a real rock fight. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, well, speaking of opportunities here too, we were chatting back and forth on, I don't know, one of the mediums that we chat back and forth on about Hail Mary, right? And so the tickets for Hail Mary 70 millimeter went on sale this week, and within hours or minutes, all of the good seats were taken at all the theaters that I could see it in. It's playing at the Vaughn IMAX, which is 70 millimeter IMAX, right?
Yeah, it's a nice theater.
Playing at the Varsity 70 millimeters, which is where I saw Star Wars back in the day. And I think it's the only one of the few 70 millimeter theaters left in Toronto, right? Vaughan is like north of Toronto for those of you driving at home or transporting at home. But so anyway, so the tickets are sold out, but I'm looking at this as like, but they're only selling the 7 p.m. shows on each of those days, right? I don't know how long the movie is, but it seems to me that like that's the advanced ticket sales, and I've noticed that sometimes I can go see a movie like there'll be a 7 p.m. show, but there'll be like a 3 in the afternoon show as well, and sometimes on the Thursday before the Friday, right, kind of thing, right? So I have a feeling it's going to be playing around in multiple, if it's depending on what's coming out at the same time, like hopefully Dune or Avengers aren't coming at the same time, but you know what I mean, like, or something of that scale. Because yeah, they're gonna. If it's to be an IMAX, I have 2 theaters that I can see close to me that are IMAX, but there's a bunch of them around, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, and like I'm not gonna die if I don't see it in 70 millimeter. Let's put it that way. Oppenheimer was a different story, but yeah, like it's interesting that it's already sold out. Like it was sold out within minutes, but yet I'm sure that the day it comes out, it's going to be playing in multiple theaters and multiple formats, right? So
yeah, I mean, we'll see. The people who love it. The people who are like real cinephiles. I mean, my son is obviously extremely interested in like the artistic preservation of the vision of a director. When we were talking about the Odyssey, which is obviously coming out this spring, he, was very, very frustrated that the tickets for the Odyssey in 70 millimeter IMAX went on sale a year ago from May. And he could not get tickets to go see it at any of the theaters. Not that there are very many of the 70 millimeter theaters here in Canada. And, to the point where he basically said, like, if I needed to, and, it was an option, I would get on a plane and fly to Winnipeg just to see this movie in 70 millimeters, because that's what Chris Nolan is intending for this to be seen as. And again, the people who are passionate about it are passionate about it.
But don't places like SeatGeek and stuff like that flip these seats now?
I don't know. Sure. Can you flip movie tickets? That's a new one.
I can't see why not. I mean, they're digital, right? So
yeah. But either way, I think I'm good enough to see these movies in good quality. I'd love it if they were in great quality. As it is for me, I'm happy with my decision to move here. I love it here. I'm proud New Brunswicker now. However, my choice is if I want to see this movie, any of these movies in IMAX, I either have to drive to Quebec City or Bangor or Moncton. Those are my 3 choices. One, on principle, I will never return to the United States as long as the circumstances are as they are. So that one's out. And then I have a choice. I can drive 4 hours to Quebec City, or I can drive 3.5 hours to Moncton. So yeah, not great choices. I guess it's not. It's about 3 hours to Moncton, but still,
It's a hike.
It's a hike to go see a movie. It's certainly not like what you and I used to do. Of well, I'll come to Mississauga and you go to Toronto, and
we'll both go to Vaughan. Or whatever,
exactly. It's not like we have multiple options. So, the compromise for me is, again, will I drive to Fredericton or St. John to see it at least in AVX or something that's a little higher quality than my local theater? But and you're right, Tim. I mean, I think the circumstance is true. We're spoiled. We have been spoiled. You are still continue to be spoiled. I was spoiled for a very long time. Toronto is a very, very dense region, the GTA, the GTHA, and there are many places you can see, great productions of movies in theaters. The reality is that for a lot of people across the world, and particularly in North America, there aren't those choices. You just go see it wherever you go see it. People will go see it here in the little theaters in Woodstock, which is a lovely little theater, and I'm really proud that it's here in our community. It's not the best experience, but you take what you can get, right?
Yeah, no, it's better than what the old experience was. You had to drive to Holton, Maine to see a movie.
Truly, yeah, or Fredericton, which again is like for us, it's an hour and a half. So All right, let's keep it moving. So the X-Files is getting rebooted. That's a thing that's happening, and it's
I could care less. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I've never watched the X-Files, which is a glaring, I'll admit, issue for my nerd credentials. However, I will couch it by saying during the era in which it sort of started and became its thing that it became, I was in my late teens and was first in like my senior years of high school and then into college and getting my education and starting work. And I did not have cable and I did not have time. So by the time, I knew that it was a thing, and I always thought like, well, I'll catch up at some point. They'll put it into reruns or something and I'll catch up. But this is also, you have to remember, in an era before there was on-demand TV and streaming services and everything else, if you wanted to watch it, it was an exciting day for a lot of people when it came out in like DVD, TV on DVD, like people could actually have it at home and stuff like that.
Well,
so
we used to tape it on VHS too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for my case, yes, should I have caught up with it over the last 30 years? Yeah, probably, but I haven't. So I'm a little ambivalent about the X-Files generally just because it's not my thing. That being said, I did watch about 20 minutes of the premiere online maybe 2 months ago and was like,
what?
Of the X-Files, the original X-Files, and was like,
because they're on TV now, yeah.
It was just it was on Netflix or Crave or something like that, and I watched the first 20 minutes and was like, damn, this is pretty good. So I can see why you like it. I like David Duchovny, and I think Gillian Anderson is fantastic, and so I get it. But a lot of people are excited about the idea of this being rebooted, and particularly because it's being rebooted by Ryan freaking Coogler, who is one of the visionaries of our times right now. Obviously, most recently nominated for many, many Oscars. As a matter of fact, a record-breaking amount of Oscars for Sinners, which was a great movie from last year.
Yeah, he did. Well, we didn't talk about the BAFTAs, but that was just this weekend. Didn't he swept up there or something?
Well, he won Best Screenplay. That was the big win for him there. But it's big deal to have somebody of his stature doing this, and they have announced that Danielle Deadwyler is going to be the star of the pilot, written and directed by Coogler, and she is that's like being kind of served a very good opportunity on not that she doesn't work for it, but on like a silver platter. Brand recognition, Ryan Coogler, X-Files. It's hard to imagine it wouldn't be picked up for a season unless it's terrible or extremely expensive. It's Hulu, so if this is Disney, big bucks behind it theoretically if they want to do it. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. I am not super familiar with Danielle's work. She's best known in the article I've got here. It says, The Woman in the Yard, Carry On, Till, and I Saw the TV Glow. I've seen none of those things. So I could not comment on her abilities to do this. I feel like I should catch up at some point. But I'll put that on the list right there with my X-Files. I'll watch all those things. But,
sure, yeah.
But, I mean, so did you watch If you say you watch most of, some of, any of X-Files?
Oh, I watched it regularly. The kids were totally into it, and so that's why I got started on it. And I think I saw most of I didn't see the very first batch, but I remember the episode I was watching on that fateful weekend when we won't talk about it, but yeah, because that was her favorite show too. But yeah, and so I watched it. I saw the movie. I don't know. I thought you went with me to the movie. I can't believe you didn't. But yeah, I did see the X-Files movie when it came out. It was kind of meh. It was okay. It was a sort of an ending, I guess. It was it was a thing, and I don't know that we really had the water cooler moments that we would have had like you do now, like now that you have the internet, because this is all pre the iPhone wasn't even around. This is like 96, 94, 95, 96 kind of thing. So it was like before we had social networks to talk about all this kind of stuff. We did have social networks back then, but they weren't as popular. No, I guess they started around 2000 or so.
Yeah, I mean, the message boards were real at that point, because I remember.
Yeah, but we weren't. People weren't hanging out on them. That's people like it was super nerds went there and hung out. I went there to download software updates and stuff like that. I didn't go there to chat about X-Files, and we did talk about it at work and stuff like that. But yeah, it wasn't like I think Survivor was kind of the first sort of thing that people would talk about every time it was on, right?
Yeah, that was 2000. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, but back then it wasn't, people didn't really, I mean, it wasn't, I watched it regularly because that's what you did, but there weren't that many choices too as well, so, and it was kind of like, it's very much like the Twilight Zone, like that's obviously a draw for me, right, because Twilight Zone was kind of twisty, and there was a whole conspiracy thing, there was Cancer Man, who's like a Canadian actor, and an institution, There was the whole FBI, like the kind of like working against the administration kind of thing, which you'll find if you watch the shows. So it was all that kind of stuff. But in the light of the current administration, it seems kind of like a fantasy now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Can you imagine Kash Patel running the X-Files? Yeah.
Sorry, did I laugh really loudly? I didn't.
Yeah. Sorry, did I use my outside voice? Speaking of things that won't die.
Yes, speaking of things that won't die. Oh my goodness. Okay, so as you'll recall last year, I have leapt on the sword many times on behalf of our beloved audience, and I have watched some truly terrible Spider-Man associated films from the folks over at Sony. Yes, they are responsible for the two terrific Miles Morales Spider-Verse animated films. However, they are also responsible for 3 pretty mediocre Venom movies, a truly atrocious Craven movie, a truly atrocious Madam Web movie, a truly atrocious, if not for Matt Smith just like chewing the scenery into little bits, Morbius movie. They're not good at this, I think it's safe to say, after a pretty decent sample size. They're not good at making...
Well, how do they rate on Rotten Tomatoes? Does that sort of back you up too?
Oh, God, yeah. Like, truly, truly low numbers. Like, some of them are down, in the teens. These are not great movies. And, it all stems from the fact that they still hold the rights to all Spider-Man and all Spider-Man adjacent characters, in spite of the fact that they have licensed that character Spider-Man back to Marvel to make him part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So last year, in the wake of yet another terrible pair of movies in Madam Web and in Craven, they sort of said, well, I think we're going to take a little break and kind of reevaluate. And I think it's on hiatus for now. And many of us were doing a small dance of joy saying, okay, good, because they really are kind of peeing in the pool at this point. They really are just kind of contaminating everything with really mediocre films that are really not bringing a lot of value to the genre. Now, having said all that, the good folks at Sony are talking once again about rebooting its expanded Spider-Man universe, according to the folks at Entertainment Weekly, and I am nauseous. So they confirmed, Tim Rothman, who's the CEO of Sony Pictures, confirmed in an interview recently that He thinks they are going to return to the Spider-Verse. He thinks that they have learned some lessons. They are looking at doing a fresh reboot with new people. All I can say is nowhere to go but up. If you think that this is a good idea, I refer you to the previously mentioned films. I just don't. Maybe there is a solution there. Maybe somebody's got a brilliant idea. Maybe they can find a way to salvage this. I mean, never say never. However, I still think the whole world is better served by them finding an astronomical price and selling the whole rights back to Marvel to let them just do this correctly. So, the idea of more of what they've made just makes me very sad. For those who have just joined us for the first time or want to get to know me a little better, massive Spider-Man fan my whole life. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of Spider-Man comics and have read many, if not a lot of them. One of my all-time favorite characters. Love the universe that has sprung up around him. And that is why I truly love the Spider-Verse Miles Morales movies that they've done. I love that character as well. And that's why it breaks my heart that they are just wasting really good IP on money grabs. The other thing we haven't mentioned is they have to make movies, including these characters, in order to retain the rights. That's part of the deal.
Right, okay.
They have to put out movies within a certain window. If they don't, the rights revert. So they are obliged to make these dreadful movies in the name of, retaining the rights. So
that's not much of an incentive, really.
I mean, it is for them because really, if they spend a couple $100 million on making a Venom movie and it makes a few $100 million back at the box office, which it does, they do make enough money. They make those, and then they also get to license Spider-Man back to Marvel, which makes them a fortune.
Right.
So,
because otherwise they would lose the rights to it, right?
Well, yeah, and again, that. They want to retain the rights. But
is the Tom Holland Spider-Man, is that part of the Marvel universe?
Yeah. So since the advent of that, they basically have licensed the character back to Marvel to use in whatever fashion they like, more or less. And they basically, Marvel makes the movies, makes the Spider-Man movies. Sony gets some input. They are essentially producers. They help, foot the bill for it, and then they rake in the profits. It's a win-win for Sony. And it's all based on a sweetheart deal that they made 30 years ago when Marvel Comics was really struggling and needed the money. They licensed out a bunch of their characters because they just desperately needed the money to keep publishing comic books, and they've regretted it for 30 years. So we watch terrible, terrible movies. I watch terrible, terrible movies for you people because of a terrible, terrible business decision made 30 years ago. And hopefully we won't see more of those, but maybe we will.
Okay.
I feel like I'm on a roll tonight. Okay, here's some great news. So a lot of people have been very sad about the demise of the Cartoon Network in the United States and the fact that there were so many great series that had been created as part of the run of that. And they ended up on some other streaming services, most notably HBO Max, had a whole bunch of the content that was on the Cartoon Network. But some of that stuff has fallen off of those services. It's kind of gotten spread around. It's kind of hard to keep track of where things are. If you don't have, physical copies or you don't have a digital copy that is yours, you'll kind of lost track of a lot of stuff. So it was an exciting piece of news that I saw recently that the good folks over at Tubi are going to acquire a massive amount of classic cartoons that are going to start streaming on that service on March 1st. So we're talking about 90 different series from the great world of animation. Huge stuff in here, and also some really niche stuff. So I think that's awesome because it's not just, the top 20 most popular things, it is a huge selection. We're talking about classics like Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain. We're talking about Justice League, Batman Brave and the Bold. We're talking about Powerpuff Girls. We're talking about Teen Titans. We're talking about Ben 10. We're talking about Dexter's Laboratory, Tasmania, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Amazing list of really great animation. I have seen a lot of this stuff because I'm a massive animation head, and this is a terrific deal. And considering the fact that Tubi costs, let me check, nothing, that's an incredible deal. If you are a fan of animation, Tubi has just become your best friend because they are going to have this whack load of content coming on March 1st. I'm going to be spending a lot of time over the spring checking out stuff on there. Some series I haven't watched in a long time, some series I've never watched. And, it's nice that this has become a bit of a one-stop shop. And honestly, if Tubi is trying to find a niche in a very crowded and very strong streaming market where there are some major players, carving out this little niche as like, hey, I'm looking for great classic animation, it's on Tubi, is a really nice find for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies I watch on Tubi that you can't find anywhere else.
Well, and that's it, right? They have found a niche by just sort of having some stuff, and I do watch some stuff there. I've watched some great, particularly I find they have good international stuff sometimes. So I've watched some British shows that I'd wanted to watch and stuff there. I do think it's a good service, and especially again, you can't beat the price. But yeah, this is a real win for people who are into animation. Particularly, this is stuff from sort of mostly pre 2010, some of it back into the 90s and 80s. But yeah, this is awesome. See, I'm not all bad news, folks. I got good news mixed in here.
Well, I have a few things, just a couple of things to wrap it up here. Disneyland's Muppet Vision 3D, speaking, this is sort of a Muppets follow-up, will be released on Vision Pro, Apple Vision Pro, and a few other 3D headset type things. And I don't know much about it, never seen it before, but it's a thing, and people are apparently pretty happy about it. So, Brian Henson's
that was the one that they had. So when they closed the Muppets studio thing in California, that people were disappointed that it was going to be coming out because it was a classic for people who are out that way. I remember reading about it on. I follow a bunch of Muppets social media fan stuff, and people were really disappointed because I guess it was a kind of an institution for people who had seen it and enjoyed it. So
I don't know if it's a documentary or whatever, but
yeah, I think it's immersive. I think it's like it used to be like a ride, more or less, right?
Okay, cool. And then, so this is another sad passing. Robert Carradine died at 71. You may or may not know him. He was probably closest to us. He was one of the Revenge of the Nerds guy.
Yep, he was Louis Skolnick. That's right.
Yeah, so he was that was his sort of popular thing. But before that, I mean, I had seen him in a couple of things. Obviously, I was a David Carradine fan because of Kung Fu and a few things. He was in an episode of Kung Fu as well. But there was a movie called The Long Riders. I can't remember if it was made for TV or whatever, but it was an interesting thing. It's the James folks, right? Jesse James and his brother, and they were I think the gist of it was there were a bunch of brothers that all got together and formed this Long Riders group. And so in order to make the movie, they had Stacy Keach and his son. They had the three Carradine brothers. There might have been four. There was David,
Robert, Keith,
Robert, and Robert, the young guy, and Randy and
Dennis Quaid,
Dennis Quaid, and then the Guest brothers, Christopher Guest and his brother. Apparently, his brother is an actor as well. So those guys made up this kind of interesting movie called The Long Riders. So I think it's a neat thing that brothers were playing brothers. Is what I'm getting at, right? So
yeah. I mean, I have a strong affection for Robert Carradine because I was a child of the 80s. Revenge of the Nerds was a cult film of the era. And of course spawned multiple sequels and everything else. The first one is kind of lost to the mists of time now because it does not hold up well for many reasons, not the least of which is that it portrays a lot of terrible treatment of women and sexual assault and all kinds of stuff like that, which is a shame because I think there's some really poignant and great stuff in that movie. I almost wish they could find a way to sort of temper a bit of it just to sort of, like I struggle with it. There's some beautiful stuff in there about how, nerds are. There are more nerds than there are beautiful people in the world, and maybe it's time for us to be taken seriously. As a nerdy kid who turned into a nerdy adult, I loved the message of it. I loved that these people found community in each other. There's a lot of beautiful stuff in that movie. Unfortunately, it's also got some really terrible stuff in it too. And he's incredibly charming and likable as in that role. And I saw his face in the pictures that were popping up around these articles about his passing this week. And, he's just got this charm to him, this big smile, those sparkling eyes. Underratedly handsome man. He played this sort of dorky, nerdy character, but he's a good looking dude. And yeah, it just kind of made me sad that, this movie that does have something important to say is kind of, not going to be carried on to the future because it's got some very problematic stuff. I wonder if down the road we'll see some of these things get released with a little bit of, more context, at least, before the movie airs, you can have some discussion about, the themes and whatever. But because they did that with some of the sort of classic animation from the 1930s, 40s, 50s that had some extremely problematic stuff in there. Some of the wartime stuff, very racist stuff, very intolerant stuff. We're talking Bugs Bunny. We're talking about like mainstream cartoons that were really problematic. You can see those. They're available. You can watch them, but they also have a lead in that explicitly says like, this is a product of its time. The circumstances were different. We don't condone this. However, we are preserving this in its original form. I wonder if we're going to see that for some of these movies that just, again, have aged just terribly. But yeah, Robert Carradine, I was just instantly struck by a wave of sadness when I heard about his passing. He was a one of one. I'm going to tag up some more sad news on this one. This happened this afternoon. This sad news that we lost another nerd legend. Rob Grant died today at 70. Not a name you would know right off the hop unless you are like you and I, hardcore Red Dwarf fans. Red Dwarf, so Rob Grant was one of the co-creators, along with Grant Naylor, of Red Dwarf, this classic UK cult sci-fi series. It played a huge role in obviously you and I bonded over that, early in our friendship. And it's just one of the weirdest, funniest, goofiest concepts. Very British, very, very funny sci-fi. And, I love sci-fi. I love comedy. It's hard to do sci-fi comedy well. Not everybody can. We have some outliers. We have some great ones in there. There is the Galaxy Quest. There are the Red Dwarves, but it's not easy to do. And they did it for years and years and years and years. They've been able to continually make it entertaining over the course of a very long period of time. And yeah, Rob and Grant are where it all started. These are, the two guys who really brought it to life. And I have the books that he wrote. It's just,
so they published them as the Grant Naylor. Yeah. Just to fact check you a bit here, it was Doug Naylor is Doug Naylor's a partner. Rob Grant and Doug Naylor.
Because Grant Naylor was what they called they published their books.
Grant Naylor was kind of like a two first and last name. Right. Is it two people, one people, right. Whatever? Yeah.
Yes. So. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's again, I am not emotionally prepared for the amount of people who influenced my sense of humor and my tastes over the years to be leaving us so soon. This is very sad.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I don't know what.
I think there was supposed to be some new Red Dwarf coming too, right? So
yeah, I was going to say I don't know what this means for the future of Red Dwarf. I don't know how involved he had been on the most recent projects or anything else. But yeah, again, what a run, what a legacy to leave behind. One of my all-time favorite shows, one of our all-time favorite shows. And yeah.
Seen them all.
Yeah. All
right. Yeah. Well, speaking of seeing them all, it's time to switch over to the main part of the show where we talk about something Star Trek related. And again, we are talking about Starfleet Academy. This time it's The Life of the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a big Easter egg in this one, but
Well, several, yeah.
Several Easter eggs, I guess. But it was interesting, and I don't know if I told you this, but I probably have never told anybody this, but I think I've told many people. But I was supposed to be in our town back in high school. It was the theater teacher wanted me to do the stage manager and George.
Oh, good roles.
Yeah, and but the problem is I wasn't reading at that point, so I didn't bother reading the play. And I ended up not doing it, and I ended up doing the painting the backdrops for the performances. But because they were doing a bunch of different plays, but one of them was our town. So ambitious when you think about it, but especially putting me in that role. But
and having said that, given that this episode was obviously so centered around the concepts from that, pang of regret. Were you following along?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I've seen Our Town since, and I'd forgotten some of the parts about it, but I did remember that the main character becomes a ghost, or the girl becomes a ghost, and so it was kind of interesting to hear the I guess it's her brother was the stage manager, and he was narrating all the way through, because I was like, oh yeah, I remember that speech, and I remember that, and unfortunately it was my opportunity, but I blew it. So, but and I think I also told you too that when I got to grade 12, they scheduled theater and art at the same time, and we had to all choose one path or the other, and I chose art. So
yeah, I always found that frustrating too. The way that high school was when I started in the late 80s was in first year in grade 9, you could only choose between art and music. And they only gave you space on your schedule for once. You had to choose between art and music on basically day one. And I was equally torn. I chose art, and I enjoyed it and I learned a lot, but also it made me sad because I felt behind on music. So I never really went back to it. I took one music class later on, but I didn't really get back into it. And it kind of always felt like a miss for me. And then drama didn't start until grade 10, but then because of the way the schedules were balanced, it was hard to balance that against the rest of your schedule, especially if you wanted to continue taking art. So you kind of got pigeonholed, and I really kind of struggle with that because I loved all of those different things. So I did take a drama class, but after that, I couldn't keep up with it, and because it is demanding too. I was always found the way they had that set up back in the day was a little bit of a frustration. You just couldn't immerse in all these different forms of art.
So needless to say, there was a lot of frustrated people in this episode.
Yeah.
Because, what's her name again? Tahina? Tarima comes back.
Yep.
But she's been put into academy as opposed to the war, whatever.
The war academy. College. Yeah, she got transferred against her will. Against her.
Well, and it seems like her device is really suppressing her emotions or whatever, because she's very standoffish at the very beginning and until she gets tipsy. But and then they throw them into this drama class, which they don't know. They're all being called into this class and they're drama. And surprise, surprise, guess who the instructor is?
My favorite. Mary Weissman's back. Hooray!
Captain Tilly, or not
Killy. Captain Killy. Yeah.
Captain Killy, yes.
Tilly's back. We knew she was coming
she's
back.
Back for an episode. I don't know if she's continuing, but
I had read that late last week that they were saying that next week's episode will be the one where she comes back, and I was like, the one?
Oh, really?
Because initially, again, I think you and Jaime have talked about that in previous episodes. We kind of thought they were going to sort of center this series around her.
Yeah, she's off teaching a third-year academy class somewhere else. That's the story.
We'll circle back to that, but I mean, I think we kind of thought that she was going to be one of the professors at this school, and instead we got Jet Reno, which is great. I mean, Tig's amazing, but I think all of us really responded to the Tilly character in Discovery. She was probably the best part of that series, frankly, and it was disappointing. Now, that being said, we're 8 episodes into Academy. I really enjoy the series. I don't feel like it's lacking Tilly, but also feel like, I thought we were getting more. And then it felt like a bit of a bait and switch, but.
True story.
Yeah. I have an elevator pitch for this one.
Okay.
Which is you can't send a 209-day-old to university, then traumatize them, and then expect them all to work out.
Yeah.
I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but no.
It took them 200 years or 200 centuries to build her.
I think they said 2 centuries.
2 centuries to build her, and yeah, it was a long time to build her, and then 200 years. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have in my mind.
This was so. We talked a little bit last week. So last week was a very reflective episode. Obviously they were dealing with the fallout of what happened after the traumatic events on the Miyazaki. Last week was focused really on Genesis and on Caleb, and then we also got the Darum and Jaden stuff. Here we come back and the band's all back together, they're all back from their break, but people still aren't right. And then I talked a little bit about how much I enjoyed the fact that they don't just sort of like do episode of the week, that there is lingering issues and lingering trauma. Again, your mileage may vary on how long you want to spend in these moments. I did find this episode on the back of last week's episode a little heavy, but also extremely well written, really well performed. For these young actors, there's a lot of heavy stuff in here, and I thought they all kind of rose to the occasion. And then throw on top of that, Bob Picardo doing a really nice job as the Doctor, and you have a really, really good episode. It's just we're really kind of in this heavy place. And, we're down to 2 episodes to go in the season, and I'm hoping that they will pull out of this sort of spiral of sadness. It did seem by the end of this episode that everyone was in a better place, right? Thank goodness, because I really don't think I could take a 3rd consecutive bummer episode.
Well, I read some of the reviews on the side, and a lot of people are not really happy with where these sort of softer episodes are going, right? So like, this is where you find characters, right? Like these are the moments why you do these episodes matters. It's not about the pew pew pew. It's about how you feel after the pew 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 when not everybody, didn't get pew pewed, like I think this is where you find and define these characters. How did Tarima react to not just having that explosive amount of power that saved everyone's lives, but what that means for her going forward? How does Caleb deal with the fact that his girlfriend is now got this level of both incredible power and incredible fragility? What does it mean to Occam to, have his sister, move into his, into his world now that she's moved over from the War College to the Academy? And, how is he processing what's happened to her and all that? There's so much going on there. And to the point, like, the whole episode revolves around, or half the episode revolves around Sam, who is not equipped because of the way she was programmed by her creators on Cask to be able to deal with everything she's dealing with, to the point where it basically corrupts her entire system, and they're talking about shutting her down permanently because she just cannot manage all the information that's going through her brain. Was she on the ship, and was she on the Miyazaki? Yes. I can't remember.
No, she was on the Athena.
Okay.
But
why did she start glitching? Just because of the overload, or
she could not handle the amount of complex information happening inside of her programming.
Okay.
Basically, she was unprepared emotionally to manage the intensity of the experiences that she was having, both good and bad, but particularly the trauma of that. So she is basically a metaphor for what's happening to everybody, right? Hers is becoming a potentially life-threatening situation. For the rest of them, it's just eating away at them slowly. So we get the extreme of her life and death moment in this episode, and then we get the smaller little deaths of Tarima and Occam and Caleb and Genesis and, Darum and Jaden. And although that was really funny that Jaden got a cold halfway through, like a third of the way through the episode, and they're like, go to your room, you're in quarantine, and you never saw him again. It was pretty funny. But yeah, like I thought this was really kind of important and poignant to understand how each one of these characters is going to manage what they've experienced, especially at such a young age. Like, you and I are not young men. But if you can cast your way back to that age, you were just talking about your experience in high school and expressing regret and some sadness and some of those things, in those moments when it's happening, to have had those traumas, to have lost friends, to have traumatic experiences where your life was in jeopardy and stuff like that. How do you move forward? How do you go on? What do you do?
And
what choices do you make?
Tarima's reaction halfway through is Tilly's pushing her to do this thing, and she says, "I can't," and ends up storming off. Right, like whether you fail me or not, I can't do this, and that's a typical adolescent reaction, right? So some kids just can't deal with stuff, and they have to go off and withdraw, right?
Yeah, no, I mean it's. I think this is, like I say, these are the episodes where you find your characters. These are the episodes that matter. It's not pew pew. It's not, perhaps what everybody's looking for in their Star Trek episodes, but you're going to like and care about your characters a lot more because of episodes like this.
Yeah, I mean, this is how they become officers too, right? So.
Yep. Speaking of pew pew pew, which it was very light on, I just had drunk Tarima because she was certainly in her bag when she was in the bag. A lot of mixed emotions and complex feelings, and I thought that was a fun performance, and also of just a sort of the way that it sort of starts out as conflict, turns into romance, turns into conflict, and kind of comes back around. Was an interesting one.
I find it odd that, I don't know if you saw the placeholder image on Paramount, was Caleb and her sitting together facing each other, which was from an earlier show. They I thought
it was the scene where she crawls in between his legs during that drunk scene.
Yeah, but I thought they used that same placeholder in a previous episode, or there was like when they first kind of got together.
Yeah, I mean, anyway. Maybe that's just their
similar.
It's interesting just because obviously physically, like he is. I mean, that dude is massive. He's jacked, and she's tiny. So I think I wonder if that's just their way of trying to create intimacy between two people who are disproportionately sized. So that's kind of their go-to move when they're trying to show intimacy on screen.
Well, I mean, and he does the honorable thing by saying you're drunk and we should stop.
Yes, please, all men, take note. That's what you do. You're drunk. No. You mentioned some callbacks. So the Easter eggs, right? This was. Well,
I don't know. The one time the Doctor was talking about Gotana, I don't know, because he talks about an episode where he talked about an experience he had where he had like a 17-year experience in a matter of seconds, kind of thing, like Picard did with that one flute episode.
Yeah, so there's two episodes that they mention from Voyager. They're two separate experiences. One is him talking about having seen that time dilation experience. That's an episode called Blink of an Eye from Voyager, which was a very good one. And then he also mentions having a daughter and having to watch her die. Belle, that's from the episode Real Life, where basically he has a holographic family. He has the experiences. He tries to live sort of normally. I don't know if you remember that one where his son ends up falling in with like a Klingon gang, and like he's a human child, but he starts dressing like a Klingon and speaking Klingon. But yeah, both of those episodes are pretty memorable ones, and experiences again in evolving the Doctor, in having him be more than what he is as a hologram.
And they explain that as the reason why he's resistant to be her mentor, right?
Yeah. It's a strange one. I've thought about, when and how they're going to deal with that. I mean, obviously they're not going to just chuck it all out there, and he's not going to be like, well, Tom Paris died here, and Janeway died here, and Chakotay died here, and now I'm sad because everyone I know eventually dies. I thought it was interesting, and the first time they kind of really have touched on it, the fact that, he is essentially eternal. He's essentially an immortal being at this point, even though he's changed his aesthetic because Rob Picardo's gotten older. But I thought it was an interesting moment when he's sitting there and Sam has shut down. They're on their way to her planet, and he's sitting there with Nala, and they're both talking about the fact that they are very long-lived. I mean, she's 400 plus years old. She's only half length a night. Who knows how long her life is? Probably not as long as his could potentially be, but an interesting moment between beings whose lifespans span many other carbon-based life forms short.
Well, he's almost
lives.
a millennia old. Didn't he say 900 years?
900 years, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she's a mere 400. But either way, I think they kind of find a moment together in that of, we've both been through some stuff. We've both had losses. We both, there's no way around the fact that, like, irrespective of the experience that he has, and he mentions his daughter, I do think it was a missed opportunity for him to also talk about, like, there are these people that I knew and cared about and had these adventures with and loved and all that. More beyond that, obviously, Sam triggers the experiences of Belle because of the daughter parallel, the mentorship parallel. But I think it would have been a nice little touch to sort of say something about, like, I've seen so many people that I know and love come and go over 900 years. And that also has affected me, because they don't really reference that, but it has to have affected him to have seen, as he points out, I don't need to sleep. I don't need to eat. I can just exist. And, the sun goes up and the sun goes down, and another friend lives and another friend dies. Someone who I'm going to know and be close, friends with has just been born, and someone I was close friends with just died. Like, that's got to be a strange experience, right?
Yeah. But eventually you get used to it, I'm sure.
I mean, I guess. Could you ever get used to? I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not like obviously he's procreating or necessarily or anything like that. But I did think it was really interesting that the solution to this, obviously, I think you and I both had the moment. Probably, I'm reading your mind, but like the interstellar moment where they're like, "We're going to this planet where the time dilation." I'm like, well, that'll come into play. And
yeah.
The solution to how they're going to repair Sam's glitching is that, he basically says to her creators, I will stay here for, 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, we will experience 17 years passing on Earth. I will basically raise a brand new version of her that will be merged with her experience that she's already had. And, we will create a more robust human not human, but
where does Nala go during that part?
She leaves.
That.
So I think the idea is that she leaves first, leaves him behind, and then
so they put that little emitter thing as the thing he's holding up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the idea is that she leaves because obviously she can't stay there during that stretch. I mean, she could, she'd be fine, but what's she going to do?
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks. So she goes back. Job. He ends up doing that, and then they come back. I'll be really curious to see what that means for Sam going forward, because obviously she's going to be a more complex character if she's now not 209 days old. She's 17 years plus 209 days old, so she's almost an 18-year-old now. What's that going to mean for her sort of perception of the world, idiosyncrasies? She's still gonna be fascinated by a toothbrush. I'm really curious. And Carice Brooks is, I think, the name of the person who portrays Sam. Carice, I'm sure I'm getting her last name wrong, and I feel bad. But yeah, she's fantastic, and I really love her. Them. They identify as non-binary. Them. I think they're terrific, and I really enjoy the performance. And, Carice Brooks. They really brought a lot to this one because, it's such a strange role to play. You're essentially a young adult with the experiences of a toddler, but with the capacity for intense amounts of learning. I mean, we see her basically read like every play in existence in a matter of time. That's, it would take people years to read. So yeah, it's an interesting balancing act to play a character like that. And they are terrific. They really are. I mean, weird and quirky. I mean, some of the quotes, we'll get into our quotes in a second, but like some of the quotes and stuff that she character have are really interesting in this, and really, really enjoyed that. Speaking of quotes, did you have anything catch your ear?
Well, I have paragraphs. I don't have quotes.
Okay, well, bring it up.
A moment when it happens is just a moment, but when it becomes a memory, blistering with context, emotion, and nostalgia, regret, that's when the color suddenly erupts on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one was I need it's my life. I need to talk nonsense, because if I'm talking, it means I'm not gone without ever having lived. You know what? I want to fall on my butt and die of humiliation and then have my best friend make me feel better. I want to change my mind 6 times before ordering, and I don't even eat. I want to be a rebel like Caleb or like the Chancellor. I want to fall in love and have you ever been in love? Can you answer?
Yeah, again, terrific performance. I really liked her line, Sam's line, when she's talking to Genesis early on. She says, "Sorry, I learned I'm a lot. On a good day, I'm a little bit much. On rare occasions, I'm woo, Sam, slow to impulse. I'm not even up yet, and I can't with your midday energy before I even pull my underwear out of my butt." True story. I liked Reno's line to Tilly was, "Your relentless optimism is nightmarish. I have friends in my life like that. I get it." I liked the line from Genesis. This one really, I like this. "You are just on your way to the next you. Maybe we all are." I thought that was a really nice line. And the line from Occam, I don't think I've ever used an Occam quote in the first 7 episodes. He doesn't get a lot of shine, but he says, "I'm exhausted from playing this game of being okay when I'm not. We're not." I thought that was, again, really poignant way to summarize the expectations around things like grief and depression. And again, as somebody who's had some mental health issues in my life, I understand that perspective of like, at a certain point, you just want to stop putting on a brave face and be a mess for a moment. I really thought that was very beautifully put. And then the Doctor, "The only thing that allows me to bear my infinity is not having to love anyone." Oof, what a fuck! Oh, darn, that's grim. Like, oof, that's a tough moment. And then I don't know if this is Thornton Wilder or if this is the writer of the episode, but you can't stay how you are and you can't go back. I think we should all have that tattooed on us somewhere, because that is the summation of the human experience. That's the entire plot of DS9, right? You live in this moment. Why do you live in this moment? You know, the whole idea of Ben Sisko not being able to move past the moment that he lost his wife. You can't stay how you are and you can't go back. Beautifully put, very poignant. Again, I'll have to look that quote up and report back, but I just thought that was incredible. Okay, I have 2 questions for my big question. The first one is pretty simple. How can there be 3rd years of something just restarted?
Uh-huh.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong here?
You're not using the time dilation thing.
Nope.
You're not using Hermione's little watch thing, you know.
Nope. Wrong. How can there be 3rd years? It just started. If she had said, okay, "I'm working with 3rd years from the War College," that would have been a thing. There can't be 3rd year students. There's only, like, did they just like, well, you've got more experience, so you get to jump ahead to 3rd year? If that's true, then that's where Caleb should be, because he's lived like this hard scrabble, learned a lot of stuff life. I thought that was very weird plot hole. But the more sort of thought-provoking question, I guess, would be, is the Doctor kind of a crappy doctor? Like, irrespective of his aversion to being a mentor to Sam, when somebody who's potentially about to go into a life-threatening medical procedure says, "Will you please hold my hand?" you hold their freaking hand.
Yeah.
What kind of bedside manner nightmare is that? Like, I don't care if you have emotional conflict over the potential, ramifications of something that happened 900 years ago, and also maybe if for an evolving eternal program, maybe learn to get over some stuff. 900 years is a while, but also, yeah, like, what kind of weird, like, the fact that he won't
what
even
kind of
hold
monster are
her
you?
hand,
Yeah.
What kind of A, monster, B, medical practitioner are you? Like, you are a doctor. That is your raison d'etre. Why are you doing this? That's horrible. I just think, again, what a weird thing to put forward for A, medical professional, and B, a character that we've known to be, over the course of Voyager and other series, extremely empathic for a non, carbon-based life form, somebody who has shown incredible sensitivity and emotion and thoughtfulness can't hold what is essentially a child's hand while they're about to go into procedure where they can potentially die and do? Woof. Woof. Not good. Yeah. So those are the parts where I struggled a little bit, both of those spots.
Yeah, it's kind of understandable.
Before we move past this episode and on to the next thing, what did you think of Tilly's appearance? And obviously, it was very tied to a very specific task here. But good, bad? Did you enjoy her performance? Did you leave you wanting more? Are you happy, sad, or otherwise that we don't get more of her?
Well, I mean, in terms of evolution of a character, she seems to be pretty together in a sense, right? Like compared to where she was when we first met her, right?
Yeah, very, very composed, very thoughtful in a way that she certainly wasn't very much so in the first few seasons.
Very professorial. Maybe those third years are really having a good impact on her. But yeah, no, I thought she was pretty good, and sort of had that sort of ivory tower. Teachers know what's going on, and they have this secret dialogue going on between them, sort of thing, right? So there was that. That was kind of a good thing. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was okay. But it could have been anybody, really. I mean, like it could, like
if it had been someone else, it would have been fine.
Guest lecturer.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
by the way, who was the voice of the Karakian or whatever they're called?
Oh, yeah, I had that a few episodes back.
Was it Chiwetel Ejiofor or whatever?
Yeah, it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think did the voice before. I can't see why it would have changed. I didn't look to see if it still was, but that's who it was in the episode. Was it 4? I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would not
been keeping. They're not. IMDb's not been keeping the notes up on this show. I don't know. I guess maybe they don't care about it.
Yeah. As I say, I don't know for sure, but it does seem like sounded like the same voice. So I imagine they probably just had him do all the voiceover for the season, kind of all in one go.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Cool.
Now, a word from our sponsor.
Do you live for Sunday dinner and that slow-cooked all-day flavor of a pot roast that falls apart with a dull spoon? Thanks to Omaha Steaks, I'm never shy about the proteins when it comes to Sunday dinners at our house. Every steak is aged to perfection to maximize tenderness and hand-cut by master butchers in America's heartland. Get 50% off the world's best everyday protein. Go to omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their semi-annual sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code YUM at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code YUM at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Go to https://omahasteaks.com to get 50% off site-wide during their semi-annual sale. And use promo code YUM at checkout for an extra $35 off. Minimum purchase may apply.
Now, back to the show.
Shall we move on to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
Let's do it. The finale.
Yeah. Well, for now.
Finality of it all. The finale of it all.
So this was episode 6 of 6, The Morrow, a.k.a. The Morning for the rest of us. This is the day after ending last week, the huge 7 versus 7 brawl, the flashback to seeing Dunk's beginnings and coming around to a very, I think for a lot of people, surprising ending where we saw Prince Baelor's skull fall off. And, here we sort of pick up with, kind of a weird scene where Dunk has got this like 10,000 mile stare, and it almost looks like he's like dead against the tree until we see Lionel Baratheon talking at him, and his terrible maester trying to tell Dunk that he's about to die, and Dunk's like, no, I don't think I'm going to die. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was again, a real kind of struggle bus of an episode. We were just talking about this with Academy, but, the prince is dead. 2 of the people who stepped up to fight for Dunk's side are dead. The people who lived are pretty beat up, including Dunk, who is not okay the next day, both psychologically and physically. He's kind of a mess. And we kind of pick up this thread of, him and this extreme regret of like, is my life worth a prince's life? Is my life worth three people's lives? Is my
or a future king's life? Yeah.
A potential future king. He has to go and he has to have a conversation with his brother, with the prince's brother, with the prince's son. Like heavy stuff, and again, done beautifully. And I think they've really kind of made very good choices as far as casting and good choices as far as performance in the way they brought this out. But this is a tough episode as far as the emotion levels are high, and I think it's a real testament to the fact that we're 6 episodes in. These episodes are half an hour apiece. This is a very different Game of Thrones world experience, but I like this guy. I care about him. I care what he thinks. I care about him. I care about Egg. It's amazing how quickly and it's a real testament to their performances, to the casting and everything else, and the writing, of course, that in such a short amount of time, like I'm sad that Baelor's dead. I'm sad for Dunk. I'm sad for Aegon. I'm sad for, the family. Again, that level of investment after essentially 2.5 hours is really testament to good quality television making.
I mean, and he's sort of given a meal ticket too, because he's the other brother or Egg's father says,
Maekor, yeah,
I want you to come and raise and squire or let my son squire you, and you can come and live in our palatial palace and have a good life. And he's kind of like, no, I'm okay, with my little bag of dirt in my tree and
hard
whatever.
Salt beef and sleeping under a tree.
Yeah, and then he, kind of sort of says, I don't want to do the squiring thing. Your son kind of lied to me, kind of thing. And then, but of course, Egg's overhearing this, and then he runs into him in the hallway, and they have a quick little chat on the bench there, and then he eventually goes back and says, "Okay, I will take him on," and then, but on my terms. And then the father says, "No, you have to do it on my terms or nothing, right?" And then, of course, the episode ends with the two of them together again. And we find out that it wasn't with anybody's permission that they're together again, right?
Yeah, and
which of course has to sort of carry on to the next books, right? So
it does, and so I will throw a quick spoiler warning out there for the book, the first book, just the first book, to say that 3, 2, 1. That is a change from the book to the screen.
Okay.
In the book, Egg. Dunk goes back to Maekar and says, "I will do this. I'll do this my way. I want to travel for a while, and then we'll join you later at Summerhall, but not for a while." And Maekar agrees. So they've written this differently for the screen. To what end? I don't know. I'm kind of curious.
Well, he's a bratty kid. Where's my son?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It does add sort of a thematic. This is the same kid that made this. He's made multiple decisions throughout this whole thing for what he wants and what he wants to do differently. And they've created a more sort of independent character by giving him agency. He makes the choice. He says, "I don't care what my dad wants. If Dunk will have me, I'm going with Dunk." There's more of a rebellious sort of part of it, which
he goes to Dunk and says, "My dad says, okay, let's go."
Yeah, and again, just like with the did Dunk get knighted? Is Dunk really a knight? Kind of theme that runs through this whole series. It's does Dunk believe that Egg is telling the truth? Does he care? I think that's the bottom line. He's like, I don't care. I want to be with this kid. He's my new best friend. I see potential in him to be a great person one day, but not if he's surrounded by these wounded dragons. He needs to be his own kid.
Yeah, he's got to do it my way, is what he says to the father at one point.
Yeah. So yeah, it's obviously we know we're getting a season 2. They were already committed to that. That's going to be based on the second book called The Sworn Sword. We know that there are 3 of these books written, so they will continue to sort of follow that. Whether or not George is actually going to write a 4th, 5th, he says he has the ideas for 12 or 13 of these books. I'll believe it when I see it.
He's got a day job too.
But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see sort of where they decide to take this story, especially in the wake of that one change, because it is a big change. But Yeah, I mean, again, terrific, just terrific. I thought that the casting was perfect. I think, I think there's so much to like about this series, and yeah, I just think I'm sad that it's over after only this amount of time, but I love that they tried something different. I love the scale and I love the focus. I'm rewatching, as we talked about on previous episodes, I'm rewatching Game of Thrones right now. And, I watched that over the course of multiple years. I have gone back and rewatched it. It is a different experience on a rewatch. But one thing that really stands out is, especially by the time, season 1 has a level of containment. We really only have about 4 or 5 places that we're kind of checking in on. And then a lot of the characters are kind of clumped together in those 4 or 5 places. By the time you get to season 2, it widens, and season 3 widens, and season 4 widens. And it's not until like season 6 and 7 that they start coming back together. To have something as focused as this was on 1 or 2 main characters, a small circle around them in one place for the entire time was really kind of refreshing. And I think, honestly, that's why people are kind of resonating with it. I think that's the thing that's been challenging with Dance of the Dragons, House of the Dragon, is that, again, the scope is huge. There's so many characters. It's taking place over the course of a lot of time in a lot of different places. There are a lot of complex names and locations. I don't blame people for getting confused. I get confused, and I have a very strong memory. I get confused about who that is and what their allegiance is and what their motivations are, and if you're a casual viewer, again, this series must seem like an absolute breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it's a bit more like Jabberwocky compared to the Holy Grail.
Truly.
Jabberwocky's like about one guy kind of thing, whereas the Holy Grail is like 27 stories in one.
Yeah. And I love the model. I love the model of, we're keeping it smaller, and we're keeping the costs down. We're keeping the cast smaller, and we're going to do one a year. I would take 6 episodes of this once a year over 3 years between, Game of Thrones seasons or House of the Dragon seasons.
How long it was?
I mean, there were some gaps, and obviously there was some extenuating circumstances. I think it was usually a couple years between. Now, again, massive amounts of CGI, dragon fights, wars, battles, and it's amazing. It's an amazing achievement to have done the things they did on Game of Thrones and are doing on House of the Dragon. Some of the technical stuff that they're doing, the way they're integrating, the CGI with the people, incredible television. However, familiarity is one of the hallmarks of television. You kind of want to see your characters you love more than once every few years. My wife asked me recently, she's like, so what's coming out this year? And I said, well, we're going to see this, and we're going to see this, and we're going to see this. And she said, oh, what about Silo? I said, no, that's going to be a while. She's like, oh, okay. Well, what about Severance? Nope, not that. Oh, what about this? What about that? She's, listed off 4 or 5 different things that she's enjoying. And I was like, none of those are coming back. The only shows that are coming back that we saw last year are, sorry, let me go back. The only show that we watched last year that is guaranteed to be coming back this year, the only show that is annual, is Slow Horses. That is the only show that is...
But it's already been filmed, too.
Yeah, but it's the only show that is maintaining an annual production that is not like network television. And we don't watch a lot of network television shows. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'm watching any right now. But that's just, out of sight, out of mind, And, again, if people don't have strong memories, be like, what happened? That was years ago that I watched that. And I've watched 1,000 things since then. It's a strange phenomenon. Again, I love that you're going to plan to do this for 3 consecutive years, 3 short series focused on characters. I think this is a really smart model. And I hope more people in the industry are paying attention to how they're doing this. I'd love to see, again, they're doing it with the Daredevil series this year, back-to-back years. I'd love to see them do, just give me something consistently again. Watch list?
Let's do the watch list. All right. So my first thing here is I'm going to paraphrase Stephen Colbert in that it's Thursday as we record, even though we just watched a 3-day-long Trump speech.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't watch the speech at all. I avoided it because there's no point in watching it because it would just be a circus. But I watched Kimmel. He interviewed 4 gentlemen from a show called Pod Save America.
I am a subscriber. I love it.
Are you? Okay, well, I don't know if you saw this episode,
I
but
did.
one of the funniest jokes in it was the one guy who was sitting at the front. I don't know who it is on the right-hand side
That was
or the
Tommy.
left-hand side.
Yeah, that was Tommy Vitor.
Tommy, yeah. So he sort of says at one point that they even brought in some of the survivors from the Epstein files who Trump's seen at least twice.
Yeah.
And only you and Jimmy Kimmel got the joke.
Oh no, it was great. It was great. It was great.
Yeah. So it was really good commentary on these guys. And I thought it was interesting insights, but I'd never seen these guys before or heard of them. But obviously, this is obviously if you're into this kind of machinations, and I mean, I watch Kimmel's
monologue,
and I watch Seth Meyers' monologue, and I watch Kimmel or Colbert's monologue every week, right? So, and it's just like 3 of the guys saying the same thing all day long. It's kind of just it's silly, but anyway.
Yeah, I discovered them it's not that long, maybe a year ago. I had known.
Was it all about American politics kind of thing?
It is. So they basically, it's a few guys that used to work at the White House under the Obama administration.
Right, they're all writers, right?
Yeah. And they basically got together and formed something called Crooked Media, and they are a left-leaning series of podcasts and video shows and stuff like that you can follow along. They have a YouTube channel. They have a podcast you can follow. They're great at what they do because they've got the experience, so they can put a lot of things into context as far as American politics, but also they're not afraid to just be like, that's absurd. They are very unfiltered. They are very apt to point out some of the idiosyncrasies of the current administration, and so if you find yourself on that part of the spectrum of politics, I highly recommend following along with Pod Save America, because it's a very smart look at what's going on there. If you are somebody who is on the right side, you would probably hate it, so just bear that in mind, because they do not give you deference based on just what your title is.
All right, and then The Long Walk was a 99-cent rental this week, I think, on the Cineplex app. So I decided to dive into that one. It's a really interesting movie. It's more like I think it's closer to like a Twilight Zone episode than proper movie. I don't know if you've read the book or whatever. I think you said you had, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. There's a bunch of twists and turns in it, and it's pretty it's pretty gory in some parts. So. But it was an interesting sort of movie. It's like an essay, it's a thought essay, I guess, right? So in a dystopian future, right? Or dystopian past, I guess. But that was pretty good. And then I watched Frankenstein, sat down and watched this in a couple of installments. I wasn't aware when I started watching it that it was Guillermo del Toro, although I guess that kind of slipped through my mind. But I'd had seen Jacob Elordi in a few things, and sort of wanted to, so I decided to watch it. It was enjoyable. I would say 3.5 stars. And I could see why it would get nominated for all kinds of things. Apparently, the costuming was. Carol said that she had read the costuming was just phenomenal. So, from that point of view, I missed the whole connection that his mother and his brother's wife are played by the same actress. It's just sort of a tie-in to when he's like young and coming up, right? But and I've never read the book, so I don't know. This is apparently closer to the book. But so it's a good movie, and it was a good watch.
I have to circle back to it. I watched the first 10 minutes and was just like, I am not in the space for this right now. It didn't really resonate with me.
Yeah, and then Begonia showed up on Prime last night, so I started watching that one. Do you know the gist of the movie Begonia?
I know the loose premise that 2 people kidnap an executive who they believe is to be an alien.
An alien, yeah, okay. That's pretty much all you need to know. It's a real conspiracy theory. The one guy's raised on the internet kind of stuff, and doesn't read newspapers or whatever, and gets all his stuff from there. And he's a kind of a little bit psychotic and stuff like that, obviously, because he's obviously not doing something that
this is the Jesse Plemons character, or
the Jesse Plemons character, yeah. So the other person is his cousin, who's a little unfortunate. But there's kind of a history with one of the local policemen that comes along, and there's tie-ins to the thing. And then the big question, like it's kind of like that you kidnap somebody and you torture them into. And it's not really blatant torture, but you torture them psychologically into admitting that they're an alien, kind of thing, right? So all I can say is at the very end of it, when I went to leave my review on Letterbox, it pop-up verification pop-up showed, and it was what's her name? Who's the actress?
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. Emma Stone's face as the character, and it was like the 9 grids, and it said click all the boxes that show an alien, and then the verification checkbox in the corner is I'm not an alien. So I posted that to our if you're looking in the spoiler channel of of our Slack channel, you'll see it there. But it was a good movie, and it was kind of like you're kind of wondering, like, how far is this going to go, right? So, but it definitely was a very very interesting story, and I think the director is somebody who's done a few really good movies.
Lanthimos. Yeah, that's the Lobster, The Favorite. He makes good movies. He is a tremendous filmmaker. It's not for everybody. He's definitely not for everybody. I have been a fan for many years. I first discovered him with The Lobster, which was more than a decade ago, and was like, this guy has got a really interesting vision. I did not anticipate.
The Lobster was a weird movie.
Lobster was a very weird movie. Colin Farrell, I was never a huge Colin Farrell fan. I think he was fine. I didn't think he was exceptional. I thought he was phenomenal in that movie.
So it's a good movie. It's pretty close to a 4-star movie for me, which is... Yeah,
I was excited. I saw obviously you messaged me that it had popped up, and I was very excited, but my wife and I have a running joke because the movie simply just didn't play down here. It just it was a little too niche, and I think it may have played in some of the cities, but we did not have an opportunity to watch it. And then, of course, it came out for purchase or rental on some of the services, and we were like, well, we'll just wait till it'll show up eventually. So when we sit down to watch TV, no matter what we're going to watch, she looks at me and says, so Begonia? And I'll say, no, not yet. She's been working nights the last couple of nights at the hospital, and so I haven't even told her that it has arrived.
Oh, good. So and she doesn't listen to the show, so it's good. Yeah.
I was really when you messaged me, I was literally by myself at home, sitting on the couch with the dogs, and was like, could I watch this by myself?
No.
And not tell her so that Tim and I can talk about it? This is one of those dilemmas of a long marriage. And I was like, you know what? I'll wait. I'll wait a few days. So next week I'm sure I will finally be around to talk about my feelings on it too. But I could not betray the covenants. So.
Well, I got to say, like, a lot of there's a few moments where he sort of does the Quentin Tarantino thing where you hear the bad thing happening, but you don't see it. Yeah, which is kind of an interesting way of, kind of, it's the whole Jaws, you don't see the shark thing, right? Which apparently, I don't know if you know this about Jaws, you probably do, but the fact that you don't see the shark, or the fact that you don't see the alien in Aliens is the best thing. And the thing about the reason why the shark didn't appear in the movie Jaws is because the robot didn't work.
Yeah.
Once they put it in the water, it started malfunctioning, right? But that was the whole suspense of you never see the monster kind of thing, right? Sort of.
Well, and that's M. Night Shyamalan's made a career out of that, right? It's the tension. Yeah. It's the tension, not the it's not the actual showing. It's the tension that you build,
and the jump scares aren't there and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I bought a few years back. I know there's a quote unquote 4K version of Jaws, as we talked about at the opening episode. But
no, there isn't.
But I do have I believe
I can print a box for you that says 4K on it if you feel better.
I bought the Blu-ray remaster for the 40th.
That's what we should start doing. Instead of selling Spotcast stickers, we should just sell 4K stickers.
Change your set. It's all 4K.
Yeah, now in 4K.
Yeah. Yeah, I had I bought, I think it was the 40th anniversary Blu-ray that they put out, which is a beautiful restoration of the movie, and also has just a ton of bonus material, retrospectives, interviews with people over the years, all this stuff. And I mean, there's so much lore around that movie because it was extremely long, and the technical issues, and there was talk that Spielberg was going to get fired, and and then it turned out to be one of the all-time summer blockbusters. Basically invented the summer blockbuster by being just this massive hit in the 1970s and made Steven Spielberg's career and. But it's fascinating how much there is around this, and you can get it now on. But again, you can't get that if you watch it on a streaming service. You have to have an actual physical copy to get all that extra material.
What are you talking about?
For the Jaws 40th anniversary, all that bonus material.
Oh, you can't, like, even if you have the movie, you don't get it on the iTunes extras or whatever?
Sometimes, but not every movie on iTunes has iTunes extras. That one probably does, true. Given its,
That's like audiobooks where some of them give you a PDF and some of them don't. It really drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because I learn more by looking at the pictures. That's how I used to read when I was a kid, right?
There you go. Me too, as a lifelong comic fan. Okay. For me, in the absence of watching Begonia, I started watching something that my wife had referred me to because she knew that I really enjoyed the Silo series and the books. And she said, I watched a series last year called Paradise. Maybe you'll like it. I hadn't seen it. I didn't know much about it. I knew she was glommed onto it because she likes Sterling K. Brown. She was a big fan of This Is Us, and I love him too. I think he's terrific. And
I haven't seen This Is Us, but I do have Paradise is one of the things I want to watch.
Yeah, I haven't watched This Is Us. I do like Dan Fogelberg is the creator of both of these shows, both Paradise and that, and also wrote and made one of my favorite romantic comedies of all time called Crazy Stupid Love, which is
I like that one.
Yeah,
Adam
Sandler. No, that's Punch Drunk Love. Crazy Stupid Love is Steve Carell, Julianne Moore, Emma Stone, and it's
sounds familiar. Yeah,
it's really, really great little sort of ensemble romantic comedy from the mid 2000s. I thoroughly enjoy that one. Anyways. I started watching Paradise in lieu of watching Begonia. I watched the first half of the first season. It's only 8 episodes. It's on Hulu.
Season 2's coming out.
Season 2 just dropped this week. This actually was part of the reason was that my wife was like, oh, season 2's dropping. I was like, great, maybe I'll catch up on season 1 and then we can watch season 2 together. So I watched the first half of season 1. I'm not done yet. The idea is essentially that there is this murder in a small town, but the small town has a really massive wrinkle as to where the town is, the circumstances of all the people that live there. I'm not going to spoil it.
Yay.
There is definitely sort of a future forward science fiction-y kind of element to it, although it is not at all in your face, and it doesn't really take a lot away at this point so far in what I've watched from the circumstances, which is essentially it's kind of a whodunit with some wrinkles. But I really enjoyed what I watched so far. I'm going to finish that one up this weekend and maybe even start season 2. So I will report back. But I did, Sterling K. Brown's terrific. There's some really good supporting actors in there as well. And I would say it's worth a check out for sure. And last for me is I got my comic books delivered from my very good friend Rob at Enter the Battlefield, which is the new name for an old store that I've been going to since I was a child. And sent me my comic books, a big batch, because I hadn't been back to Ontario in quite a while. And one of the books that was in there was Thundar the Barbarian #1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very, very niche, very, very obscure series from the early 1980s that was on television Saturday mornings for 2 seasons, grand total of 21 episodes. I loved this series when I was a kid because it was kind of Conan. It was kind of Star Wars. It was futuristic. It was swords and sorcery with some magic and some science. It was just like a weird confluence of everything that I liked when I was like 6 years old. And for some reason, again, we talked about it. I have an obscurely strong memory. I remember that show very vividly. It has, in the world of YouTube, you can go back and you can watch chunk by chunk. You can watch episodes of it. There has been a DVD release. There is a Blu-ray release now. If you feel like you really want to dive that far into the pond, but the idea of Thundar is that it's in 1994, a comet goes through the solar system, comes between the Earth and the Moon, and causes basically a massive catastrophe. And humanity survives in pockets, but the changes that happen to Earth as a result of that lead to a really weird, change. There's mutations, there's stuff that happens. And so there's not just human beings on Earth. There are basically these evolved versions of alien, like lizards and rats, and it just all these different kinds of species. And, the series is set 2,000 years after that. So, almost the year 4000. And this world that is kind of still the ruins of society past, but also this sort of future world and stuff like that. And I just loved it. I just thought it was so much fun. I loved the series when I was a kid, and I was really kind of surprised when I was looking through my solicitations for books that were coming out that they were doing a comic book adaptation, because nobody, as far as I know, cared about this stuff except for me. But there's a huge cult following. Actually, in our show notes, I've attached a link to a YouTube video. It's about 15-20 minutes long, where they basically kind of do a little retrospective on the character and the show and why it was such an important confluence of events and why it still kind of resonates. And part of the reason why it resonates is who was involved in creating it. So they actually kind of brought together this dream team of talent in 1980 or late 1970s to work on this. And it was Jack Kirby. Yes, that Jack Kirby, co-creator or creator, if you like, of things like X-Men, Fantastic Four, so many, the New Gods, like name an important Captain freaking America, like name so many of these different institutions of comics. Jack was part of that. Alex Toth, who created so many of the classic Hanna-Barbera superheroes over the years, Birdman, Space Ghost, like all that kind of stuff. That was all Alex Toth stuff. And then they threw in the weirdness of Steve Gerber, who is the creator of Howard the Duck in the 1970s. So they got these three people together, and they brought together their sort of unique styles. They had Alex do some of the main character design. They had Jack do all the world design, plus a lot of the character, like the other species and stuff like that. They had Steve, who was a genuine, and truly, I say this with the most respect I can, weirdo, write some really funky, weird science magic kind of storylines, and they brought it all together into this really sort of funky bouillabaisse of content into this one weird series. And it's got this cult following, and there are people like me, I guess, out there who do love this stuff. And so Dynamite Comics has gotten the license to do this, and they decided to really throw something at it. So they've got, not only have they got this series, it's a limited series they're publishing now. First issue just came out. Second issue is coming out, I think, next week or the week after. And they got Jason freaking Aaron to write this. For comic book fans, Jason Aaron is well known. For those that don't know, he's written some of the best stories over the last 25 years, a really true talent in comic book writing. And yeah, they kind of trying to capture this weird world and put it into a comic book. I read the first issue. I loved it. It was really fun to be back in that world again. And I think, if you like floppy comics and you want to pick up something funky and weird, I highly recommend. If you aren't into that and you want to wait 6 months, there'll be a collected edition that'll come out. You can probably order off of Indigo or wherever you get your comic books. I highly recommend going to a local comic book store and buying it. Just a weird thing that I didn't know I was missing that I was very happy to have back.
Interesting that Birdman and Space Ghost have the same
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, I mean, again, and that era is so often forgotten. Again, there are people like me who, with deep nerd core, who are love that whole era of Hanna-Barbera. They have gone back. You can watch some of that stuff on YouTube, which is really kind of awesome. But yeah, it's fun to see some things that are like deep cut nerddom coming back around.
Right. Well, I guess that's it for another week. So if people want to get in touch with you, Jonathan, where do they find you?
Well, starting on our Slack channel. That's where I share the most nonsense. Love to interact with people on there. If you want to look for me outside of that, I'm on I'm at JPK. I'm on the Instagram still for if people want to find me there. I'm at JPK News. And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, my name is Timitra, TIMMITRA, on most social things: Blue Sky, Mastodon, subreddit, Substack,
yeah,
Substack, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, just look me up. And until next time, oh yes, and Jaime Lopez Jr. is Dead with the Hair on Instagram. But until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Spockcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. If you have feedback or questions, you can get in touch with us on the website. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
Midnight.
Well, it is for me. You're still living in the past. What is it like? It's like Thursday there? Come on. Nobody's on Thursday anymore.
You've all moved on to Friday, have you?
Yep. That's what we do here. Just keep moving forward.
How about those long days? What time does your sun go down at?
Well, we're in a weird spot because we are like 6 inches away from the Eastern time zone, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Like, I'd say it's probably like 6:35, 6:40-ish now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad. It's a week from Sunday is daylight savings time starts.
But that'll make my dog happy.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that either. But on the flip side of that, it'll be a little darker in the mornings getting up, which is always a little bit.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But I do really like the fact that when I'm like done work at 4.
Wait, do we move back or spring forward?
Spring forward. Yes, it's fall back.
So
forward.
It becomes an hour later, or
So yes, everything becomes an hour later on the 8th.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that means that your sunsets right now that are 6:30-ish.
So my dog will be start looking for dinner at like 4 in the afternoon instead of 5.
That is 100% correct.
Okay. Well, he's not going to like that. Okay.
Well, he's an old guy. He's gotten used to change over the course of time.
No, he hasn't, because he gets fed at 6 o'clock for those of you transporting at home, but he comes and starts around 4:30, 5 o'clock. So now he's going to start at 3:30, 4 o'clock. So.
I must say I'm consistently impressed, given the age of my Labrador Retriever, that he is so composed. He doesn't really start bugging you until it's like pretty well past what normally his time for feeding was. If I'm getting up and feeding him in the morning, I'm usually up at like 7:30-ish, and that's when he gets fed. Sherry works some crazy morning shifts sometimes, so his feeding time is kind of all over the place, and I think that's actually been good for him, because he definitely knows when he's hungry, but he's not like, it's 6 o'clock, it's feeding time. It's more like, it's been so long since I've eaten that I now want to eat again. So I'm kind of glad that I don't have to wrestle with him over, like he doesn't, like he sleeps in the bed with us. I'm glad he doesn't like poke me at some crazy hour of the morning. Really? Speak of the devil.
Your dog?
Hey, he just brought me his bowl. You had dinner. I know you had dinner. I fed it to you myself, you weasel.
He said food. You said you're talking about food.
Yeah. Like he literally just like came through the kitchen with the bowl in his mouth, down the stairs and into my office with bowl in mouth, and is now staring at me. Hi. Hello. Yes. But anyway, I'll be glad that when I get off work at like 4:30 that it's not like dark immediately. I like that very little. I like the fact that I can actually get to take the dogs for a walk or go do some outside chores or whatever again. I'm looking forward to the sun not going down so early, so I will take that when the clocks change soon. Hopefully my son will be home this weekend for his March break, which will be nice. Get him in here to do some hanging out and some putting stuff away and all that good stuff. Again, it's going to be a weird year because it's not only is he not living here currently, but he's also he's going to be spending his summer in St. John, so we'll not be seeing quite as much of him. It's a weird. Sharon, I constantly say like you don't realize how much of a presence he is until he's not around.
No, I know the feeling.
He certainly fills a room. But yeah, it's definitely quieter here. I'll say that. I have more free time.
Yep.
And my chore list is distinctly much more mine than others.
Right. Yeah. Because I just saw. Was waiting while you were talking there. Looked at something and I saw a picture of Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion on a podcast with Brent Spiner.
Oh yeah. Well, the two of them do a podcast. They do. We used to be Space Cowboys or something.
Oh yeah.
They've done that for a little while, but I wasn't as familiar with this. I don't watch The Rookie or anything, but I think is it Gina Torres is going to be on The Rookie or something. But yeah, I mean, anytime they tease this stuff, I'm both excited and then I am like, don't even bother getting my hopes up about this because that's just cruel. But I think it's I don't know. Would it be the same? Like, I know Joss is canceled, like, and for good reason. But would it be the same if they all got back together without Joss to do the writing and the directing? I just feel.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, he's sort of the.
I mean, this was his idea, and yes, obviously he managed to get together this incredible cast that really brought something special to life. But I don't know. It just to me, it would seem really odd for someone else to pick up that legacy. Now that being said, right now somebody else is working on Buffy. They're reviving Buffy.
Oh really? Is he gone? Is he canceled? Like gone?
I mean, it was basically had come out a couple years back that he created a toxic workplace in a few situations. It started out with people, if you recall, it was the young man who played Cyborg in the Justice League movie after he took that over, who said he was just abominable to work with and treated him terribly and everything else. That started a cascade with a lot of people coming out and saying he was not nice to me either. And then that cascaded into him being accused by a lot of women of psychological harm and treating them very poorly. And then it also came out that he was having a lot of illicit affairs and stuff like that, which, certainly hastened that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody really wants to be associated with him in the wake of all that. And obviously the people who had worked with him who experienced that don't want to work with him. So again, the odds of him coming back and doing anything related to any of those characters is not high. But yeah, it's honestly, I was listening to a podcast the other day. One of the podcasts I enjoy is called The House of R. And it's these two great women who are very knowledgeable and very passionate about nerdy stuff. And they're doing a rewatch of Buffy. And they were talking about Buffy season 3, which is probably the best season of Buffy. And they talk all about the show. They talk about the characters, talk about everything. there's no discussion about Joss. There's no discussion about, and I was thinking about just the legacy and how weird it is. I mean, Buffy, Angel, Firefly, the freaking first two Avengers movies, this was a very important part of the nerd culture for a long time. I remember the shirts. Remember the shirts? Sorry, George Lucas. Joss Whedon is my master now. Like, he was kind of like, the next in line as far as the sort of the legacy of creating these important things. And he is just kind of dropped off the face of the earth in the wake of all this stuff. And, again, sounds like from the allegations, and obviously, it is people's word, although, at this point, it's certainly a loud and very high number of people, especially women, and you must believe women. But it's really weird to have sort of that legacy just completely erased when, the quality of the work was just exceptional. And Serenity is just an all-time movie. It's so well made. The first Avengers movie, that's a tough lift. That is a tough lift. That's the first time anybody tried to do that, and he nailed it. That movie is, I've gone back and watched, I must have seen that movie at least a dozen times now. And, so many things had to go right. Is it a perfect movie? No. But considering the lift of getting all those actors and all those things to overlap and bring all those things together and make it have heart and make it fun and make it exciting and make it funny and make each character have a certain time in this, that's a lift and a half. And it's even Avengers 2, the Age of Ultron, people kind of crap all over it. They crapped all over it in the time because it was kind of a lot of setup, right? It kind of was the setup movie for what was coming next. And so people kind of were like, well, it's not as good as the first one, and it's not this, and it's not that, it's not everything else. It holds up better on rewatches now because we have the long tail of everything that comes after and how it kind of sets that stuff up. But like the fight between the Hulkbuster and the Hulk, like there's so much good stuff in that movie. Does it completely land? No. But there's a lot of great, exciting, fun, funny, it's got a humor that only Joss's stuff really kind of brings. Like, again, I hate this stuff. I hate having to, like people get canceled for a reason. You generally deserve to be canceled if you've been canceled. Sure, there are some exceptions, but generally, if you're getting canceled, there's a pretty good reason you're getting canceled. But it's really frustrating, like these are extremely talented people, I wish guys could just keep it in their freaking pants and shut up and start being nicer to people. God, it's just so frustrating. Like, I feel like I'm angry at him all the time because of the legacy that is now gone and the talent that is wasted.
Yeah, definitely.
Ugh.
Anyway.
All right. Should we pack it in?
Yeah, we should pack it in. That way you can go get your beauty sleep.
Yes, that will fix everything. I will sleep, and then I will be beautiful.
All right. Yeah.
All right, man.
And then you can watch Begonia.
This weekend, maybe.
All right. Okay.
All right, bud.
Bye.
Yep.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.